What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to more Black Desert. So, I wanted to bring back another small series that I do, and it's called the Window Shopping series. So basically what we do is look at the market, just look at all the more or less relevant items, and so this will be a good concept because a lot of people on other servers like EU and C server ask me what the price of X item is. And I don't really do this kind of video that often because there's no point to doing it more than like maybe once a month or once every few months. But overall, to show you guys what the costs of what I think are relevant items are, I like to do this. So for the most part, they've made a lot of changes over the years. Like all the boss weapons are more or less the same within the same bracket, like high and low. Minimums are all the same, but things we'll talk about are accessories, armors, weapons, and extras. So I think this is going to be a cool series, and I'll tell you my thoughts and opinions on if I think it's worth making it yourself versus just buying it. To be honest, most of the items, if you can buy it off the market, definitely do it. But sometimes, usually an item is event gated. Well, not like gated, but a lot of items are event based. So if there's a lot of extra of these materials sitting on the market, it might be better to try to make it yourself versus if it's always sold out, just buy it. So yeah, first of all, let's go down the order of weapons. I think the more important ones are going to be accessories, light stones, and just other materials. So the number one thing people ask me is Zarka versus Blackstar versus Often. Oh boy, where do we start? First of all, God Eye. It doesn't matter what class you play. If you're wondering whether you should get a God Eye, the answer is, does it put you up into a new bracket at duo or try? If the answer, well, it will put you up into a new bracket, like 1 or 2 brackets. Is it worth it? It depends on what bracket, I would say, because if you can get like 280 or something with a duo or try, I think it's worth it. But if you're just getting a duo and it's putting you at like 261, the answer is like, it's hard to say, because it's not that I think the small progression in God Eye weapons are bad. I think that if you are eventually going for pen, which you are, you're not really going to be profiting off of anything. Unless you one tap it all the way to pen, you're not profiting. So you could get it as a temporary step, but just know that you're losing silver when you resell it later to get the pen, or you just hit your own. So just know these are kind of hard to sell, at least on the North American server, that is. And that goes for all 3, both the main hand, awakening, and the like offhand. So if you can get a decent enough bracket where you think your AP is relevant, good. However, just know, like, by the time you try selling it back, it's very difficult to sell it at like max price. So just keep that in mind. So what would I do? So let's say you already have a Tet, well, what you do, and you're thinking about converting it over to God Eye. Just know that you're using a lot of silver stacks and materials to get it like a temporary bracket until you get your pen. And I think nowadays pen sits on the market for some classes and usually at minimum price. So I know if you look at this and you're like, oh wow, 140 billion is a lot. Yeah, it kind of is, but at the same time, a steady progress of silver is always going to be better in the long run than going for like RNG. You might get it, sometimes you don't. In my personal experience, you guys can watch my old videos of me enhancing Blackstars. I spent over 200 billion trying to get a Blackstar, just cron clicking it from Tet to pen, and still never got it. And then I ended up just buying it. And you guys can watch those videos. But yeah, obviously I know some people one tap it. It's all RNG. But I think for the most part, the safer play for your average person would be to just save up the silver and buy it. And I know you might be listening or thinking like, oh, people only list it for max. Real talk though, people will like hard minimum a lot of things. And if everyone played this game in a smart and, you know, smartly, I guess, yeah, a lot of us would not have the gear we have now. So anyway, so that's my thoughts and opinions on Blackstars and God Eyes. I would just keep Tet until you can get Pen if you're going to buy route. If you enhance it and don't care what to say, then do what you want. I also do enjoy enhancing sometimes, so just keep that in mind. Now, the whole thing of Zarka versus Blackstar. Now, here's what I have to say about that. A Zarka, or Pen Zarka at Capris 20 is the same thing as a Pen Blackstar. Now, the difference is you don't get the extra monster damage that's on here, which is 48. And that's actually a lot. Believe it or not, an extra 48 damage against 2 monsters, so PvE grinding and stuff, is a lot. So nowadays, it's 2022, and it's going to be almost 2023 soon. My answer will probably be just go to Blackstar route no matter what you're doing. As the game progresses, they're going to add more grind spots, and this will always be relevant because grinding is one of the core parts of this game. So when it comes to Blackstar versus Zarka, getting the Zarka to Capris 20 is slightly cheaper because the price of this is going down like drastically, and getting to Capris is probably the hardest part. Well, like, it's just time consuming. So is getting a Pen Blackstar. But with that said, slightly cheaper to get the end result, but I think having the overall monster damage was worth a lot nowadays, just because grinding is more prevalent than ever. So yeah, I would say for about 99% of classes, you probably won't be using it often. The only time you see people using it often is when they're doing like gear capped Arena of Solaire. And I know for Dark Knights in Arena of Solaire, everyone used the often because it put you up into a new bracket. And so that's a very extreme specific case. And even then, it's not like you had to buy it. They just kind of gave you gear anyway. So with that said, I don't think many people should use often anymore. It was fine back in the day and less now because there's a very small window of when you should use an often. And that one is like, does it push you up to 261 AP? If yes, then you could use it. But once you can hit 261 with the Zarka, the accuracy is worth a lot more. So that was also kind of like information that we had years ago, and now with like all these other accessories and everything that came out with accuracy, it's kind of outdated, and so often is less relevant. So if you had to choose between often and Zarka, I would always go Zarka. But between Blackstar and Zarka, it's always the Blackstar. That's just generally how it goes. And if you need more clarification on like something doesn't make sense of what I explained, feel free to ask. I'm happy to clarify anything that like may have caused confusion. So this kind of is the same thing. My opinions on awakening weapons as well. Dandy versus Blackstar versus God Eye. And once again, all the information I saved or said to you before, I think it's still relevant. Back in the day, before Blackstars even existed, and pen dandies were very hard, people actually unironically went for Dragon Slayers because it was actually easier to obtain one with material costs. So it's not that I think pen dandies are bad anymore, but I still think the whole Blackstar route is a lot better because of the extra damage to monsters. And believe it or not, a small amount of monster damage really does add up, because there are places that are like AP cap, like Medaya, for example. I think a lot of spots are AP capped, but like AP cap or extra damage to monsters kind of goes above that cap, if that makes sense. So it makes you clear faster when you're grinding, no matter what. However, if you're only interested in grind or like PvPing, it's okay to have a dandy. I don't think there's anything wrong with that as well. So in terms of prices, let's see, what is the difference? Okay, so generally Blackstars, you can probably get any class for minimum. 14 billion for an awakening, not bad. Dandies are 7, so like literally half the cost. Interesting, but I know that may be like, oh, actually half the cost, but I do value monster damage pretty highly, so that's it. But good to know. What is it on your server? What are the Dandy and Blackstar prices? Sub-weapons. Let's use these, for example. Now, this one is a little bit tricky because different classes will use different things. Now, for example, Dark Knights, I personally have a few different options. I use Nanuver. I use the Kudum, or Kudum, but I have a pen Blackstar. And then there is also a Sayer for DKs and Zerkers. Now, this one is a little bit trickier to talk about because, like, some other classes will have different things. Like I think for like Rangers, Wizards, Witches, they have both your, standard Kudum, Nuver, Blackstar, and they also have like a evasion dagger. I don't actually remember which one that is. Is it this one? Could be. I don't really remember. But either way, for most classes, the answer is Blackstar, Nuver, or Kudum. The difference between Kudum and Blackstar, once again, you're trading a little bit of accuracy. We're talking about the pen level. You're trading a little bit of accuracy for monster damage, and even at very high end, if you have like a Kudum at Capris 20 and you're thinking, should I swap over to Blackstar at pen? And if you don't care about the silver and accuracy trade-off, it's worth it. But if you just have like a pen Kudum at like Capris 5 or 7 or something, the brackets are 7 and 14 for the AP, by the way, then if you aren't at 20 already and you're just like, oh, I could buy this Blackstar right now, should I do it? Yeah, I don't think it's a bad idea. The accuracy can be gotten back with other things. So ultimately, it's very minimal in terms of the difference. But if you only PvE grind, then it's an obvious choice of you should get the Blackstar. PvP, mostly for the average person, Nuver is going to be the way to go for general PvP. I think like 8 to 10 billion, to be honest, for a pen Nuver. It's not bad for the base. And sub weapons, like the Blackstar ones, are significantly cheaper than the main and awakening weapons, just because there's a lot more options in general. But ultimately, it's up to you whether you decide to go for the pen route for this one or you just stay with the Capris 20 Kudum. I personally chose the Blackstar because I didn't have much in terms of Capris in mine my Kudum before I had it, so it was a huge upgrade for me. But really just depends. If you have a Kudum 20 and you're thinking about pen Blackstar, just know the changes or the difference is very minimal and you probably won't notice that much. But if you like having things like I do, if you have 2 Blackstars and a Kudum and you're just like, I want 3 Blackstars because it matches, cool, by all means, I would do that too. So we're getting into the armor territory, which is a little bit trickier to talk about because we have the DR route and the evasion route. I could save the whole DR versus evasion topic for an entirely another video, so that's what we're gonna do. In terms of helmets, for example, Nowadays, I don't think it really matters because our ultimate goal is the Libresca, right? So the way you get it is have either a Gaiath or a Griffin at Capris 10, and then you grind like Jade Forest for X amount of time, get 100 flames, or the Embers, get a flame, do the quest, and then you get a Libresca helmet, and then you go from there. So if you are like a newer player finishing season, for example, and you're like, do I want a Gaiath or Griffin? The general go-to is the Griffin, because the difference is not the stat number. It's resistances 5% versus a flat 100 HP. And I think, depending on the price, which they look like they're about the same, I think the resistances 5% is a lot more valuable than a flat 100 HP pool. The reason why I say that is because generally in this game, if you do any sort of PvP, you'll know that 1 CC is a lot more than 100 HP. Like, if you can one combo someone, all you have to do is CC them and you win the fight. So that 5% could help you win that fight. Or if someone if you resist it, you're good. And that's just 5% versus 100 HP. Does it really make a difference? Not really, but that 5% could save you in any sort of duel at any given time. So minimal stat difference, but I think if you had to choose and you're making your own, Griffin is the better one. Plus, I think the Griffin helm looks cooler, but like, that's opinion. And so, yeah. Ultimately, if you're just buying one and then buying it to Capris 10 to get the Libresca, the price is relatively the same to the point where you should just skip that process and buy the Libresca. And the price is actually surprisingly cheap for like base to duo. So if you are going to buy route, just buy it at duo. Just spend the extra, because the stacks you do use for a Pry and duo starts at like 90 stacks from base to Pry, and then like a 120 and up from Pry to duo. So I think, so like both of my Fallen God armors and Librescas are both at Tri, and I think I used, okay, so I started with 100 just because I have a lot of stacks of them, but I think the lowest you could go is probably 80 for that. And then I would say roughly add about 30 stacks on each of them up until Tet. And then obviously Pen is basically impossible to get unless you get mega carried. So for the most part, let's just say 80, 120, or like 110 to, I don't know, 150, 110 to 150 around that for duo. And then from duo to Tri is like 160 to 200, and then from that is like 200 to 250. And then if you are unironically going for a Pen one, which very low chance, like 0.002 or something, then you just literally use the highest stack you can, preferably over like a 350 or something. But yeah, with that said, generally most people are at Tet and just staying that way. So, yeah, your end game goal is Libresca. It doesn't really matter that much these days, but if you had to choose, Griffin is the way to go. Armors, once again, same process of this one. Your end game goal is the Fallen God armor. The difference between here is Dim Tree versus Red Nose. There is an actual difference this time. Red Nose costs a little bit less Capris, like 1,000 something less Capris, which is roughly about 3 billion silver. And your goal is to get them both to Capris 10, do the quest at Turos, get the flame, and then turn it into a Fallen God. Now, it is less Capris in the Red Nose than the Dim Tree. Why is it still like that? I have no idea. But this is one of the cases where the Red Nose is significantly better to get. And back in the day when there wasn't Fallen God armor, you had the choice of Dim Tree and Red Nose. Most people would have chose Dim Tree because the HP 200 pool is a lot more valuable than HP recovery. But now that we have Fallen God, these two are like less relevant, and this one is literally cheaper to ultimately push to Fallen God. So there is a clear winner, and it's Red Nose for this one. You don't really use it for the stats. Your end game goal is to get Fallen God in the cheapest way possible. So that's that. Gloves. There's two options, bags and levers. I completely disregard all Blackstar armors because I think they're a meme, and they are basically the same rates as you would enhance a Blackstar weapon. More or less, actually. Well, I think they are, but like, I've never enhanced one, but I've watched people, and it's cost like the same cron amount, more or less. And yeah, you have two options, bag and lever. Bag is the accuracy DR option. Lever is the evasion one. Which class are you, or which one you should get, depends on your class. And ultimately, I think in general, it's one of those things where if you have to ask when, or like, should I swap to evasion, the answer is you're not geared enough. Like, it's one of those things. So personally, I think bags is fine, and you'll probably be fine with that. And then by the time you actually get enough gear to swap to evasion, you don't need my help anymore. Same with this one. For shoes, it's Uragons and Muskins. Uragons is the DR option, Muskins is the evasion option. If you are going for the selling route, I think they're mostly the same now, but generally Uragons is more valuable in terms of quantity, and so like you'll have an easier time selling the Uragons than a Muskins. However, once again, are you DR or are you evasion? Ask yourself that and pick the one that goes for you. But I think if you are watching this video, then you probably think that you should probably go Uragons. Like, even if you are like a DR or an evasion class with DR gear, it's not really that bad. But if you don't have enough evasion and you're trying to fight high-end players, you're still getting clapped. So honestly, in terms of prices, this has been the same, like all the armors more or less for the same. After Magnus, it dipped a little bit and then it went up in price again. So with that said, functional clothes. Oh boy, this is a hard topic. As you guys know, there are 3 tiers of Monos clothes. This is all life skill, by the way. So there's Logia, which is the mastery route, and then there's these thingies, which was the old school things that we used back in the day, and I still use them actually. So these things, there's basically ones that give more XP, and I still use them. I also, or you guys have actually watched my videos of me hitting Tet Monos for every single close, all 8 out of 8 of them. And if you haven't, you could watch those, and they're pretty fun. Some I got really lucky, some was a disaster. But yeah, so your ultimate goal, I would say, is going up until the Monos route. And if you are a beginner, I think you should still get these ones, and you should start with Logia, or like you should get these and then also do Logia. Because if you are a beginner, your ultimate goal is to get levels fast up into like Master and Guru. Because it'll give you permanent mastery. And then after that, you'll start realizing mastery gets you more money. But until then, you're going for levels and then money. Not to say that you won't get any versus each other, but I think having permanent mastery adds up late game. So anyway, why do I use the difference between like cook's clothes? Because when I'm cooking, I want more XP, and then when I'm turning it in for like Imperial deliveries, I want mastery. So yeah, that's the difference. In terms of like the mastery parts of the gear, like Logia versus the Creo or whatever these called, they all have different names. I wish they would just have a similar blue name. And then Monos. I was actually playing this game when Monos and then Logia and all the blue tier came out. Monos didn't even come out at the same time as Logia. So Logia, they decided to introduce to the game as their own thing. So then like everyone made their Tet and Pen Logia stuff. And then later on, they started announcing Blue Gear. And then like a few weeks later, they announced Monos. They introduced these all in tiers, and now they're all out. So your ultimate goal is to end up with Monos, because these are like, I guess, arguably the best in slot ones. And it is also harder to enhance them. I would personally skip the entire blue tier. If you're a beginner, start with Logia because it's cheap to either buy or enhance yourself. And then the blue one is not that much better in terms of silver cost to make or buy yourself. And the only time I would say it's worth buying a blue one is if you can get it at Pen. Like if you can buy Pen and Pen only off the market, it is significantly better because it gives 330 mastery. Now, if you look at, okay, so actually, let me go back and, so 4 billion, right? 4 billion for 330 mastery. Keep that in mind. Now, if we look at Gatherers, you get 300 for 5 billion. Math doesn't add up to that one, right? You would think that by looking at that basic math, Pearl Abyss, you should upgrade the price to the blue ones to about like maybe 7-8 mil for a Pen Blue Gear. Just throwing it out there. I don't know. It doesn't take like a genius to figure that one out. So anyway, your ultimate goal for no matter what life skill you enjoy doing is to get it to Pen. That is my future goal. And the price of this is hard capped at 60 billion for every single piece. And your ultimate goal is to transition into Monos. And that's about it. So my opinions, the ones that give XP, these are the old school ones. They're still good. Logia is for beginner mastery players. Skip the blue ones unless you can get Pen off the market. And when I say like Pen, I mean like you can buy Pen and that's it, which is very rare. Like if you're enhancing this yourself and you for some reason have a blue one, you don't sell it. You keep it until you get a Pen Monos. And then this is just the end game. So accessories. Oh, this video is getting long. All right, so let's speed run this one. Life skill. Same thing for life skill accessories. You go Logia, blue, and then Monos. I would go Logia and then Monos. Same with the armors. Opinion still stands. For rings, you have beginner level crescent rings, which is the same thing as Eye of the Ruins. Eye of the Ruins difference is you get HP on the side. You want to calculate how much you think 130 HP is. And to me, I don't know. Is it worth like the 10, 20 billion to you? I don't think so. At that point, if I'm going to spend like 80 billion and it's like only 130 extra HP, I think I'd rather save up the extra 20 billion and then get the one extra AP because it'll put you up into a new bracket. So it's really weird how the prices are right now. This is the entry level. You could also get the free one from Jatina. Eye of the Ruins are in a weird spot right now, but you either have this one because like it's the cheapest one at Pen level you can get. Tungrad is for the people who want that one extra AP, which is high-end players. Ominous rings are the accuracy rings. I personally think Ominous are the weakest of all the accuracy accessories. If you're going the accuracy route, you're better off going for necklace or belt one. So in terms of ring, you're either a DR player and you have Cadres, or you are going for Crescents or Tungrads. Necklaces. Endgame goal for, I would say, 99% of people is the Pen Deboreka, myself included. You guys have watched me try to enhance it. It did not happen, but that is a goal. Lunar Necklace is the accuracy version of the thing. I think it is a good choice, and it is also pretty expensive. Your average player, though, is going to be choosing between Ogre, Leighton, and Tungrad. Tungrad obviously is best in slot. It is also roughly the same as these, so if you can get a Tungrad for the cheapest price, do it. Otherwise, Ogre and Leighton's basically the same thing. Whichever one is cheaper, get that one. River Necklace, DR version. Sissel's hybrid, not really worth it. Earrings, this is Disto's best in slot AP. Baja's Dawn, same thing as a Disto. Dawn earrings are accuracy. Narc and Tungrads are outdated. Get Narcs for DP mix. Ethereals are DPs, kind of a meme. Belts, Deboreka, endgame goal. Same with the other one. Then Turo, accuracy. You either have Voltara, Bassi, or Tungrad. Tungrad's the AP one. Not really one. You get the one extra AP, not really worth the cost. Bassi belt is the good option. Orkinrad hybrid. Voltara for HP as well. Same stats as that, but HP. Worth it in my opinion. And that's about it for this video. So hope you enjoyed, and I will see you next time.